India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi described his two-day visit to Nepal as a reflection of his government's commitment to neighbourhood-first policy and said as the Himalayan state entered a new era, India would continue to remain its steadfast partner. Prime Minister Modi will visit the Himalayan nation on Friday and it will be his third visit to that country as the Prime Minister. External Affairs Minister Sushma Swaraj arrived in Myanmar on a two-day visit during which she is expected to hold discussions with Myanmar's top leadership on key bilateral and regional issues including the Rohingya issue. Myanmar is one of India's strategic neighbours and it shares a 1,640-kilometre border with a number of northeastern states including militancy-hit Nagaland and Manipur. On her arrival in Naypyidaw, Swaraj was warmly received by India's Ambassador Vikram Misri and Permanent Secretary of Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Myanmar, U Min Tu. China's J-20 stealth fighter jets have begun their first ever combat training over the ocean. The training included spotting enemy first, strike first, disengage first, weaken opponents' defense ability, retard opponents' combat progress and strike opponents' seaborne targets. J-20 was showcased at the Zhuhai Air Show in November 2016 and participated in the Grand Military Parade of the Chinese People's Liberation Army in a three-jet formation to mark the 90th anniversary of the found of the PLA. Pakistan's top judge has ordered the first official investigation into the country's deadliest terror attack, a massacre at a school that killed more than 150 people in 2014. Relatives of the victims, mainly children, have long called for an accounting of the security and intelligence failures that allowed Pakistani Taliban gunmen to storm the school in the northwestern city of Peshawar on December 16 that year. No government or military official has ever been held to account for the security failings. Criticism of Pakistan's powerful armed forces, especially their counter-insurgency operations, is largely seen as a red line in the country. US President Donald Trump welcomed 3 US prisoners released by North Korea at a military base near Washington on Thursday. President Trump thanked North Korean leader Kim Jong-un for their release and sounded upbeat on a planned summit between the two sides. The prisoners freed after U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo traveled to the North Korean capital landed at Joint Base Andrews outside Washington, where a giant U.S. flag was suspended between ladders of 2 fire trucks on the edge of the taxiway. US President Donald Trump announced that he will meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un on June 12th in Singapore. Trump tweeted on Twitter, and I quote, "The highly anticipated meeting between Kim Jong-un and myself will take place in Singapore on June 12th. We will both try to make it a very special moment for world peace," unquote. The Israeli military said that it attacked dozens of Iranian targets in neighboring Syria in response to an Iranian rocket barrage on Israeli positions in the Golan Heights. It was the most serious military confrontation between Israel and Iran to date and Israel's biggest strike in Syria since the 1973 war. Speaking on Thursday, Israeli Defense Minister said that Israel responded fiercely to an unprecedented rocket attack by Iranian forces in Syria against Israel. Germany on Thursday accused Iran of provocation after Iranian forces in Syria fired a battery of rockets and missiles at Israeli army positions in the occupied Golan Heights. A German Foreign Ministry spokeswoman said in a statement, and I quote, "These attacks are a serious provocation that we strongly condemn. As we've always emphasized, Israel has a right to self-defense," unquote. Israel says that it has struck almost all of Iran's military infrastructure inside Syria in its biggest assault since the start of the civil war there. The strikes came after 20 rockets were fired at Israeli military positions in the occupied Golan Heights overnight. Syria's military said that the Israeli aggression had killed 3 people. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Thursday the United States should not exert any extraterritorial influence on Iran's partners after its withdrawal from the Iran nuclear deal. Also, Germany held that Moscow can use its influence on Tehran to ensure that it sticks to its obligations under the international nuclear deal. Iraq goes to polls on Saturday for the first time since driving out Islamic State. The focus of the elections would be on healing the country's deep divisions, and shift in the regional balance of power is likely. The election of a new prime minister and parliament also takes place the same week. US President Donald Trump announced he was pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal, raising tensions between Iraq's 2 main allies, Tehran and Washington. Meanwhile, police officers and army personnel in Mosul, Kirkuk and Ramadi queued to cast their votes 2 days before the rest of the nation's voters can go to the polls to elect a new parliament. Attackers armed with guns and knives struck a mosque outside South African city of Durban on Thursday, stabbing to death an imam and seriously injuring 2 others. The 3 attackers escaped in a car from the Imam Hussein Mosque in Verulam town off the outskirts of the eastern port city. Police said that the men entered the large mosque after midday prayers and stabbed 3 people. A dam burst on a flower farm in Kenya's Rift Valley after weeks of torrential rain, unleashing a sea of water that smashed into 2 villages and killed at least 32 people, officials and survivors said. The walls of the Patel Dam, situated on a large commercial farm on top of a hill in Nakuru County, 190 km northwest of Nairobi, gave way late on Wednesday. The flood water swept away power lines, homes and buildings, including a primary school, as rescue workers picked through rubble and mud searching for survivors. More than 70,000 people in South China's Guangxi-Zhuang Autonomous Region have been affected by heavy downpours. The regional flood control and drought relief headquarters said on Thursday. Heavy rain that started Monday has affected 72,800 people in 15 counties. More than 3,900 hectares of crops were damaged and electricity has been disrupted 16 times. In Yulin, firefighters responded to emergency calls Thursday, rescuing stranded residents from heavily flooded areas. A Mother's Day is always celebrated on May 10th in Mexico. The festivity is so popular that offices in the bustling capital closed down for the event. But for the scores of Mexican mothers whose children have gone missing, never to be heard of again, it's a somber occasion. Thousands of these mothers and their supporters marched through the capital to draw attention to their plight. According to Amnesty International, more than 35,000 people have gone missing in the country in recent years. A 104-year-old Australian biologist ended his life in Switzerland on Thursday. The British-born scientist David Goodall said his life had been rather poor recently and he was happy to end it. The British-born scientist said that this week that he had been contemplating the idea of suicide for about 20 years, but only started thinking about it for himself after his quality of life deteriorated over the last year. Former Catalan leader Carles Puigdemont proposed Member of Parliament Quim Torra as candidate for the head of the Catalan government as the region attempts to put an end to a 7-month impasse and form an administration. Catalan lawmakers must pick a leader to form a government by May 22 to avert more elections following a standoff during which separatist politicians put forward candidates who were blocked by the courts for being either abroad or in jail. Democratic Republic of Congo's health minister announced the first confirmed death in a new outbreak of Ebola. Health minister also said 11 other people were now confirmed to be infected, including 3 medical staff. At least 17 people have died since inhabitants of a village in the country's northwest began showing symptoms resembling Ebola in December. According to the World Health Organization, however, those cases were not confirmed through testing. Bolivian authorities clashed with rural protesters in the southern department of Chuquisaca, where thousands of residents have blocked roads for 14 days over a gas dispute. The authorities cleared protesters from an international highway leading to Argentina and Paraguay. Over 40 activists have been detained since villagers from the town of Macharati began protesting a court decision that gave neighboring Santa Cruz Department ownership of the Incaasi gas fields. Argentinian Treasury Minister met with IMF Managing Director Christine Lagarde in Washington on Thursday. The meeting comes as the South American country announced it was seeking financing from the International Monetary Fund. Argentina is trying to tackle one of the world's highest inflation rates amid general outflows from emerging markets. Thousands in Argentina took to streets to protest against economic policies along with a deal with IMF that the government is seeking. Under a driving rain, protesters from leftist organizations and unions carried banners and waved flags. Secretary General of the Association of State Workers, Hugo Godoy, sounded defiant as he spoke out against the government policies. The Santa Barbara District Attorney announced she had filed new murder charges against suspected Golden State killer Joseph James D'Angelo, 72, had previously been charged with 8 counts of murder blamed on the Golden State killer. The authorities believe the Golden State killer was responsible for killing a dozen people and for at least 50 rapes in California during the mid-1970s and 1980s. Now moving on to certain crucial developments in India. India's top court bench headed by Chief Justice of India Deepak Misra will be hearing the case wherein the centre has questioned the credentials of the petitioners seeking to block the deportation of Rohingya refugees. Centre has claimed that the genesis of the PILs threatened to change country's demography and destabilize it. In August, the central government had announced it was planning to deport Rohingyas refugees living in the country, citing that they were a threat to the country's security. Supreme Court collegium meeting is likely to be held today to discuss the issue of Uttarakhand Chief Justice K.M. Joseph's elevation to the apex court after it was returned by the centre. Official sources today said that the members of the collegium have been in consultation over the issue, and Chief Justice of India Deepak Misra is likely to convene the meeting tomorrow. Though there was no official word on it, the sources said it could take place any time after the completion of the matters on the board of the 5 judges. In what seems to have set the precedent, a transgender couple in the southern Indian state of Kerala got married in what is being called India's first legally registered wedding of a trans couple. Both of them had undergone sex change operations some years ago and had announced that they would get married on May 10th with the blessings and support of the family members and friends. Now to some stories from the world of entertainment. Rape-accused filmmaker Roman Polanski, while speaking about the Me Too movement against sexual harassment, said, and I quote, "I think this is the kind of mass hysteria that occurs in society from time to time. Everyone is trying to back this movement mainly out of fear. It's total hypocrisy," he added. Polanski was expelled from the Oscar Academy recently for raping a minor in 1977. And 21 individuals, including 11 serving army officers, have sent a notice to Akshay Kumar and his wife Twinkle Khanna for auctioning the naval officer uniform that Akshay wore in Rustom. They have been asked to stop the auction, failing which legal action will be taken. The notice stated uniforms resembling those of armed forces pose potential threat to national security. Hollywood actor Sylvester Stallone took to social media to share the first poster of his upcoming film Rambo. "Something wicked is coming this way," wrote the actor while sharing the poster. Now the 5th installment in the Rambo film series, this is set to release in late 2019.